Okay, so what we're going to do next is this lovely Broadway assignment. And we have this lovely Broadway dancer. She is quite manly. So what we're going to do with her is we're going to learn some different layer techniques. We're not just going to fill, we're going to do some different blending options with our layers palette. You're going to learn different ways. One more way to fill things in using quick mask mode, which I use quite a bit. And then you're going to be able to do creative things all you want. Now you can follow along with the video, you can follow along with the handouts, whatever you choose to do. I have done this quite a few times, so I'm not going to follow along with the handout, so it might not be the exact same steps as the handout. I will probably break this video into two things, and so this is part one. So what we have here is we have lovely Broadway supermodel. She is gorgeous, isn't she? Very gorgeous. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a new layer. In the instructions, it will tell you to duplicate this bottom layer. You can do that quickly by doing Command J. And then, or you can do File, Layer, Duplicate Layer, or you can go into here and you can drag the layer to New Layer down here, which will copy the layer as well. So like I said, I will say it a million times, there's 100 ways to do things in Photoshop. I use shortcuts mostly because that's how I do things, and I use Command J quite a bit. So what we're going to do first is we're going to color in her hair and her hat. If you zoom in right into here, you can see it's just a bit pixelated because it's kind of a lower quality, and I am also zoomed in quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new layer, and we're going to name it Hat. So I'm just going to go in here and create a new layer and name it Hat. If I double click on this, now it is even more important in this assignment to create new layers than it was in your shirts assignment. Okay, then I'm going to pick a brush. I'm going to make sure that the opacity, remember this bar up here is extremely important. I'm going to make sure that the brush is at 100%. If you're using your tablet, make sure you have that on. Now, something that I want to show you is you have all of these different types of brushes. I view them like this. There are different ways to view them. If you click on here, see I have large thumbnail view. You can do small thumbnail, text, list, however you want to do it. A large list is the second way in which I do it. I don't like that one as well because I can't see what the brush actually looks like when I use it. So that's why I do large thumbnail. And then when I hover over it, obviously it will tell you what it is. Okay, and here it wants you to pick something like this, like the chalk, I think it is. And it tells you to pick a color, any color you want. I'm going to pick red because I'm boring. And then you just, oh, it's gray, which means that it's in grayscale, which I forgot. Don't flatten. Now I'm just going to color this. Okay. That does not look good. Yes, I know it doesn't look good. That's where blending options come into play. I'm going to go in here, and you can use the different blending options. That one does not work for this assignment. Darken does. Darken works very well. Multiply also works very well. If you use multiply, you'll get that. You'll pick up the gray in her hat, so forth and so on. I'm just going to do multiply for the sake of it, or lighten. Lighten picks up more of the lines. I'm going to do multiply. Now, there are lots of different ways to erase things in Photoshop. You can permanently erase things using the eraser tool, which is what we're going to do for the hat. So I just did all of this loveliness, and now I'm going to use the eraser tool. I'm going to make sure that it is a hard edge just for this part. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to erase. I want to make sure to not have anything in her hair, and I want to make sure her ear is erased as well. Okay, now neatness, you will be graded on neatness. So you want to make sure that you do this very neatly and that you, just like you're coloring in a coloring book, okay? So we have that. Now I'm going to create a new layer for her hair. Pick hair color. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can also go into window and go into color. And then you can go into swatches, which when we do this, there's some good skin tone swatches. So when you do her skin tones, you can use those. Those work really well. There are also other swatches that you can replace them with. I would just leave them with these. Don't mess with that. I'm going to give her blonde hair. And I'm going to use a different brush. You can experiment with brushes too for this assignment. You can switch brushes. I have a lot of brushes, literally hundreds of brushes. These are all my brushes. You do not have that many. I will show you how to download them sometime, but not today. So you can switch brushes if you want to, or use the ones that are preset. I'm just going to brush in her hair, and I'm going to go to my layers, and I'm going to do screen. I want it to look like that. I don't know why, but I do. Remember, I don't want that stuff in there, so I'll go in and clean that up with my eraser. Notice it's only erasing the layer. And then I'm going to zoom out here. And we're going to go down and do the same thing to her dress, but then we're going to add a shading layer on that as well. So what I want you to do now is I want you to pick a brush, pick a mid-tone, not dark, not light. So I'm going to pick this lovely blue. I'll just use this brush, but I'll make it larger. I didn't create a new layer. Dress 1. And then I'm going to paint that in really haphazardly. Back to my layers. Pick the one I want, which is multiply. Clean that up. Seems like a lot of work. That's why I'm going to show you quick mask mode after we're done with this. Let's pretend that this is neat and clean, because it's really not. Oops. Now the problem with that is I just messed up, so I'm going to paint back in instead of undoing, because I did a lot. If I would have undone it, it would have undone all of it. Okay, so I have that pretty much done. Now I'm going to pick a darker shade of blue. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to name it Dress 2. And then I'm going to pick a soft edged brush right here, and I want it smaller because I'm going to add shadows to this, because you want to add like dimension to it in like the creases where it like goes down. But in the handout it doesn't tell you to adjust the opacity, but I am going to adjust the opacity down because I think it looks better that way. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to brush some creases in here. I can go back in and erase if I want to. You're just adding some shadows in here. So what you're essentially doing. Drawing skills come into play. I'm not using my tablet. I wish I was, because this would be a lot easier. And then I can go into my layers and I can adjust these. And you can also adjust the opacity to turn that down a little bit, which is what I would do. I would also go in and use a soft edge brush here to clean it up. Okay, that is way number 1 to shade. Way number 2 to shade is much, much, much easier. I'm going to show you that later. So this is part 1. Get all this done. Do this side as well, and then I will show you how to do quick mask mode and the other way to shade in video number 2. So once you get that done, it shouldn't take too long.